From 13 ABC, Conklin and Company, with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First, with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Taking a look at the Collins transition team this week on Take 3. What's old is kind of new again. That and more on the way with Skylar Meadows and Tom Troy a little bit later. Also, hope for the holidays. 13 ABC once again proud to team up with the Salvation Army, providing smiles for those in need this holiday season. We'll have special guests from the Salvation Army will join us in just a little bit. But first, here we are now a week removed from last Sunday when we were all watching that weather roll into town, the severe weather that ripped through northwest Ohio and into southeast Michigan. 5 confirmed tornadoes, then the damage, and then the cleanup and recovery effort. Here to talk about the process that all goes into it from the American Red Cross is Amanda Aldrich, and it's great to see you this morning, Amanda. A week removed now as we air here on Sunday morning, taping on Friday, but where are we now in the process of cleanup from Cloverdale and Jerry City up through Perrysburg Township, Perrysburg, and Oregon?
Well, at this point, fortunately, I think that we're now into our long-term recovery efforts. So what we'll do is we'll continue to meet with the families and those who are affected by the storms and make sure they have everything that they need going forward the coming weeks and months. We work with a lot of great community partners like Salvation Army to make sure they have the things that they need.
How many families are we talking about, Amanda, that were impacted to the point where the American Red Cross was involved with?
Sure. So within the Northwest Ohio region, we provided more than 700 meals, which sounds amazing to me to think that so many volunteers and staff worked to prepare those meals. And that was mostly down in the Cloverdale area that you had mentioned. And we've helped just over 150 people throughout Northwest Ohio with either food, clothing, or shelter. We opened up 2 shelters, one in Cloverdale and also one in Perrysburg Township. And so we were able to assist those families there.
We were taking a look at video here from Cloverdale, and that was a confirmed, I believe, EF2 tornado that hit. And if you're like all of us, we're kind of watching the weather and watching our weather team and taking us through it. Some people lost power, watching it on their phones or their computers, the coverage. But at what point did you say, Amanda, okay, this is a situation where we're going to be involved in this?
So we work really, really closely with all the local emergency response teams, the firefighters and the police officers and our local EMA, right, exactly. And we have a system in place. So we plan and prepare long before things like this hit. And when we see things on the radar, I think as early as maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we were anticipating.
Watching that.
Right, that it might be coming. And then we're just very much in communication with each other. And then once the storm hits, then we don't respond immediately. We wait until we know there is a need for us. So usually our first response is to those first responders. So providing assistance to them. We bring our emergency response vehicles and have snacks and refreshments to help them if there is a need for that. And then kind of as things unfold, as the days and weeks continue, then we find more and more families that are in need. And we actually go out and do outreach. Our volunteers are out there in our emergency response vehicle connecting with families and finding homes that are damaged and making sure that they have what they need.
St. Barbara's Church was pretty much destroyed, and we got initial word Sunday evening that this church had been hit. And I think there were only 60, 70 homes in Cloverdale to begin with, that small village, and up to 40 were damaged in that particular storm. So that is where you fanned out, the preponderance of the Red Cross coverage was down there?
We had a large portion there. We also had a few that were in Jerry City, North Baltimore, the Oregon Road 795 area. There were a lot of families that were affected there. And you know, the great thing about Cloverdale, actually that story down there, is that the community really did come together, and that's a great thing for us as a nonprofit in the community to know that the mayor and the city council and everyone down there were really coming together and they were preparing potluck meals and bringing that to the parish hall to make sure that people were connected. We didn't really have to provide shelters or beds for them. We had a shelter open, but they were staying with family and friends. So it's nice to have those things happen when tragedy does strike the community.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, if it's there if you have to have it, but in many cases, people just step up. It's what we do here in this area. We've seen it time and time again. We go back to the tornadoes of 2010, and the last November outbreak of 2002 when people tragically lost their lives. So we have that situation here, and you think you're getting a pretty good handle on it now from a local perspective. But then there's this catastrophe on the other side of the world, one of the most powerful storms to ever recorded, really. Typhoon Haiyan, and still dealing with a terrible situation over there.
Right, right. And our response for international disasters are a little bit different than those that happen here in the United States. At the Red Cross, all of our volunteers are trained to respond exactly the same way. So we're trained here in Ohio the same way they are in California, as they are in the Philippines and abroad.
To work in support. You go in support.
Right. We take the same training, so we know what to do. So it's kind of a ripple effect. So we pull volunteers from local, and then regional, and then national, and then international. So I think at this point, I believe we've sent 9 people from the United States out to assist the Philippines, and their biggest concern there at this point, I think, is still communication and getting through to the places that need assistance. That was actually one of our first problems that we had with Cloverdale when it struck that night, is getting into the area because the roads were blocked.
Right, and cell phone service was not good to begin with, I understand, in that in that rural area down there in Putnam County, I believe.
Right, exactly.
And I did see, and we see this time and time again. I covered the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina twice, and I saw a lot of our local folks were down there, and doctors' teams, and what have. Dr. Pat is in the Philippines now, but the Red Cross is omnipresent in just about every situation. So we thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And we're getting through the situation that came up 1 week ago today, but it sounds like we're making progress.
Yes.
Amanda Aldridge, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. You too.
We'll see you down the road, and we will continue on Conklin and Company when we come back in just a moment.